Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the latest A.R.D webinar with me, Andrew Dawkins, and
me, Rachel Blackwell. Thank you for joining us.
Lovely to have all of you with us this morning. A special thanks to all those people joining in for the first time. I think over the last few months, we've actually picked up a good number of new clients, and delighted to have you with us this morning and hope you find this beneficial. As we're going along, if you'd like to answer any questions, if you'd like to ask any questions as you go along, and we'll try our best to answer them.
So today what we're going to be talking about is I'll provide a brief update as to what's happening here at A.R.D Consultancy, handing back over to Andrew to talk about the market updates, what's happening, any updates in the portfolios, and then we are going to touch on ethical and sustainable investing, something that we've not really discussed in previous webinars, so we thought we'd just explain a little bit more about what this area is. And the joys of recording something live. We were supposed to be joined by Bowie today, but unfortunately something's come up. So
he found out he had to pay for the parking, so he's actually back out. Typical solicitor.
So sorry to disappoint, but what we're going to do is we'll talk about wills and power of attorneys from our side of things and our take on them, and we'll catch up with Connor next week and record his side of things and push that out to everybody who's joined in today, especially to hear from him. And as Andrew mentioned, any questions that you have along the way, if you just type them in, and we'll pick those up at the end.
Great. So what's happening within the business, Rachel?
What's happening? We actually do have a change this month. So we've gradually brought back some members of staff, which has been a nice change after almost just 4 months of Andrew and I here. Not quite back to full capacity just yet, but yeah, so we're bringing back as many staff as we can, safely as we can. I suppose the good thing is, though, those staff that have been off on furlough or that are still on furlough are receiving the full pay throughout, but we're looking forward to having the full team back as soon as it is safe to do so. We're starting to see the town getting a little bit busier now, so things are slowly returning back to some sort of normality. Shops are reopening and there's certainly more people going about their business. So we hope that in the not too distant future, we'll be able to see you all again soon.
Are we able to do meetings yet?
Still not, I'm afraid. We're still waiting to hear some guidance from Nicola. So yeah, we're keeping up with the Zoom meetings, and it's looking like that's going to be the way forward for quite some time yet. But yeah, we'll wait with bated breath, and as soon as we know that we can have face-to-face meetings back in the office, we'll be sure to let you know.
Great.
That's about it, I think, for me. There's not much else to report on.
No holidays this year?
No, sadly not. So, over to you. What's happening?
Right. Well, this month, I think it's been a fairly sort of steady month. We haven't seen any spectacular rises, nor spectacular falls, which is the main thing, I think. The areas benefiting most at the moment in terms of the global economy, well, really Asia and emerging markets, because they went into the pandemic first and they're coming out of it in quite strong shape. So a lot of markets there are returning to normal with considerable sort of power behind it. So really good numbers coming from Asia and the emerging market sector at the moment. Very encouraging. It's the best sector so far for us, for our investment funds, with growth over the last 1 month of around about 4%. Central Europe, so excluding the UK, well, at the weekend, a long weekend for the leaders of the EU countries, but they finally thrashed out a budget of 750 billion euros for the European Recovery Fund. So this is designed to help countries, especially in the south of Europe, get back on their feet, and they have sort of made it that they want it sort of a green and sustainable recovery fund, which you're going to talk about in the next few minutes. The fear I've got, though, is it's still a huge amount of debt that's been lumbered on the EU, especially the countries like Italy and Spain. The levels of debt they have are eye-watering. So there's got to be some significant growth relative to start repaying back some of the capital that's been brought on board. The US market is continuing its rise upwards. There's a bit of the economy is sort of pushed back because of the emergence of the virus again. The NASDAQ index, which focus as well includes more of the tech companies, has reached new highs for the year in July. And we're seeing the big tech companies this week publishing their results, quite staggering. And we just need to look at the amount of money being brought in at the moment by the likes of Google and Amazon. Incredible figures. So the US is doing well. Corporate bonds, so this is whereby companies throughout the world are looking to borrow money, either borrowing money such as British Airways only this morning, looking to the markets to keep them afloat, or looking to refinance existing debt with the supply of cheap money that's available. So the corporate bond market, which we're big holders in, has done really, really well this year, and especially over the last 2 or 3 months. Back here in the UK, the FTSE 100 index, it's really had a bit of a flat time. And this is mainly due to the fact that the index itself is heavily weighted towards things like energy, commodities, and the banking sector. And all these really haven't been in favour in the last few months. So a sluggish time for the FTSE 100. But on the wider index, the companies are doing quite well. And indeed, the UK Smaller Companies Index, or our funds within it, has shown the really, really good growth over the last 1 month period. So some of the smaller companies are doing really, really well. The big issues sort of remain. Trade tensions between the US and China, that's an ongoing thing now. It's been going on since October 2018. So shows no signs really of abating, especially with an election due in November. And that's where Trump seems to be casting his eyes on China and saying, well, it could be a vote winner for me if I get stuck in against China. Whereas 4 years ago, he was looking at China as a bit of a partner, and they could have a good time playing with China. Whereas at the moment now, it's completely the opposite, but nothing new there. Brexit, again, that will create the volatility that we enjoy because that drives profits for future years. That's ongoing. Talk about a no Brexit deal, or perhaps a deal but with different terms as originally envisaged. But whatever happens there, that volatility, that uncertainty is good for us. Finally, the property funds. Property funds are still closed for business, most of them, because of various conditions within the market. But hopefully we're going to be seeing the opening of the funds. Once again, just to reassure those clients that have investments within property funds, the funds haven't collapsed to zero. They're still valuing, but it's just that they're suspended from taking new money in or indeed taking withdrawals out. If we then have a look at the portfolio performances, I appreciate that not every one of you will have money invested within any of the 5 portfolios we run, but it gives you an idea as to the way the markets are looking just at the moment. The colours here, which are not the greatest for me to see, but we range from the defensive portfolio, and for the defensive portfolio, we've got very few shares within that, through to the aggressive portfolio, which is made up almost exclusively of shares. And it's the same picture as it's been for the last few months, in that the defensive portfolio has done really, really well without its exposure to equities in terms of good steady returns over the last month, gaining 1% growth. So has the cautious account, whereas the more adventurous balanced portfolio, which has a greater exposure to shares, has gone up by 2%. The capital growth, which has got even more shares in it, 2%, and the same figure for the aggressive portfolio. So it really means over the last year, the best performing of the portfolios is the defensive, because that has the lowest share exposure with a 2% return. Over 3, 5, and 10 years, then we come more to norm in the defensive portfolio. Then, although it's really, really good in terms of numbers, will not perform as well as, say, the aggressive, the capital growth portfolios. So when we look at the 5-year figures, the defensive portfolio has grown by 28%, the cautious portfolio by 35%, the balanced portfolio by 45%, capital growth portfolio 50%, and 61% for the aggressive portfolio. And then over the last 10 years, defense is up 72%, the cautious up 90%, balanced up 128%, and capital growth 155%, with the best, the aggressive portfolio, 199% growth over that period. Over the last year, the best performing sector for us within our portfolios has been UK gilts, so in other words, lending money to the UK government. That's delivered a return of 11%, which is unheard of really for a gilt fund, but 11% exposure for that. Over the last 5 years, the best performing sector, would you like to guess what that is, Rachel?
America?
Well done, yes, US equities, and that's up 96%. And then the best of our sectors over 10 years. Any guesses for that?
Yeah, UK equity.
Yeah, really, it's as though that's written down somewhere, isn't it? Yeah, smaller UK equity, so that's up 337%. Amazing figure. So once again, the power of investing for the longer term really sort of shines through, and that's what we're here to help clients with. It's not to make returns over a short period of time, 1, 2, or even 3 years, because that really becomes too much of a gamble. But if you're looking at a longer term outlook, then the investment portfolios we have here are ideal for you. And I think really that's the end of the market roundabout, unless you've anything to add, Rachel.
Don't think so. We'll wait and see if there's any questions at the end.
Okay, now we move on to one of Rachel's specialist subjects. When Rachel started with us, she was specialising in the CAC 40, whereas I was always DAX and the UK FTSE. But over the years, she's moved into the ethical and the ESG areas. So I felt I've probably done enough talking over the last few webinars. So really, it's going to be over to you, Rachel, for the next few minutes. I'll perhaps chip in with some comments.
Please do.
As we go. Right.
Yeah, so well, the world of investments is so vast. There's so much choice out there. So today we thought we would pick ethical investments to talk about in a little bit more detail. Hopefully won't bore you with too much information. But we'll just talk a little bit about the world of ethical investments. Ethical investments have been around for a long time, and they do continue to grow in popularity. Many people want to have control over how their money is allocated and used by the companies that they invest in. Making a difference in the world is perhaps more important to them than securing a certain level of profit. So there's options out there for everybody. And the way ethical funds work is that they adopt a negative screening method of companies or even industries that are based in specific criteria. So an ethical fund will often exclude companies that generate a large proportion of profits from things such as alcohol, gambling, tobacco, and weapons manufacturers, just to name a few. Because of this, a point to note is that they can experience a bit more volatility because they limit their investment choices. So the screening process could eliminate a lot of companies who perhaps appear in the FTSE 100 and maintain high stock prices. So the pool to choose from is more limited. That's not always the case, but it's just something to be aware of.
Interestingly, putting in here, one of the ethical funds that we're big fans of actually fell over 60%, 60 within the last few months, the height, so 60% fall, because of the fact it doesn't have that diversity that the bigger funds have, because it's a smaller arena to shop in.
Yeah, thank you. So the ethical fund managers will then look across the different companies out there who do fit their criteria, and then they'll sit down with them and learn a bit more about how they run their business and what it is they do, just to get a little bit more insight. And so some examples we've got here are AJ Bell, who are a financial services company. And what we found out about them is that they provide their employees with time off for volunteering. They run fundraising programs, donate a percentage of their profits to charities. For example, the most recent one just during COVID there, they donated a large number of tablets to care homes and hospitals to help their residents stay in contact with their loved ones while they couldn't see them. They also are working to reduce their carbon footprint. They've moved their headquarters and installed energy efficient lighting and conference facilities to hopefully reduce the travel requirements for their staff and try and make the environment better. Over 99% of the waste from their headquarters is recycled. So these are the sorts of things that the ethical fund managers will look for, see how they run the business, what things do they implement, and hopefully see if they can be a good fit to work together. Another example is National Grid, a utilities company, and they set a target of an 80% reduction in their greenhouse gas emissions by 2050, having already achieved their target of a 45% reduction by 2020. So they're doing their bit, and ethical fund managers like to see this sort of thing, so then they will consider them for inclusion in their investment funds.
It's interesting, isn't it, with one of the funds we were looking at for a long period of time, and indeed it's come up in a number of funds, is the inclusion of a company, Coca-Cola, which sort of scared a few investors away from the fund because of their selection within it. Saying, well, in their opinion, although they were ticking a lot of the ethical boxes, the end product could encourage obesity or dental challenges. So I think the ethical side, there's different ethics for different people.
Yeah, exactly. It's worth sort of looking under the bonnet and sort of finding out a little bit more exactly about the companies within there and what's important to you, really. So if you do have any ethical views, it's exactly what are they? And then we'll look to try and find something that matches that as closely as possible. The next sort of section that we have is sustainable investing. So this stems from the ethical side of things, but they have a slightly different approach to the companies that they feel would qualify for inclusion. So as I said, that ethical works on a negative screening process and exclude various companies for different reasons. Sustainable adopt a positive screening method. There is a slight crossover because we would still look to discount some companies who derive large profits from very similar areas, tobaccos and weapons. But the difference is they'll focus on companies who improve people's quality of life through medical or educational advances, who drive improvements in efficiency with increasingly scarce resources, or help build a more stable, resilient and prosperous economy. So like I said, the point to note here is the difference between ethical and sustainable. One of the main differences is an ethical fund would exclude any companies who engage in animal testing. However, the newer sustainable range of funds would possibly look to include such companies because what you tend to find is these are the companies who are developing life-changing medication. So they may engage in animal testing, but for the longer term, they're looking to do medical research and improve people's quality of life. So that could meet the sustainable objective. Fund managers will look at various trends and then invest in the well-run companies who are making strides to improve their offering. One example here. The number one cause of deaths for 15 to 29-year-olds around the world is road traffic accidents. There's 1.3 million deaths on the roads every year. Now, many nations have set the target to try and halve this number, and there's an increased focus on technologies that can try and help this. So some examples we've got at the bottom of this slide here are companies who are doing their bit and are looking at being considered for a sustainable investment. We've got Valeo on the left here. They're a French manufacturing company who produce infrared sensors and cameras that enable cars to sense their environment. Similarly, Hella on the right-hand side are a German automotive supplier, and what they are doing is creating headlights that are improving visibility and reducing accidents. So together, these are the sorts of things that are going to make a difference in these awful statistics that we have about road traffic accidents.
I think one of the interesting statistics is 80% of accidents happen within a mile of your home. So I think the key here is probably to move.
Helpful.
Okay.
So it says automatic emergency braking. This is something that everyone's looking at how to reduce these statistics. And one thing that's been brought up is looking to install the automatic emergency braking on virtually all new cars by 2025 to help try and reduce this number. So what we're finding is that sustainable fund managers will look to invest in these sorts of companies noted just on this slide here, rather than the big names such as Audi, BMW. They'll look at the smaller companies who are doing their bit individually to try and make things a little bit better. So you'll see here on this slide here, environmental, social and governance criteria. This is the latest hot topic in the industry. It doesn't just apply to the ethical and sustainable funds. We are finding that more and more companies are looking at how they run their businesses and how they're ticking the boxes for each of these factors. Obviously, it covers so many different things, but environmental, that's the sort of things, looking at the company's energy use, their pollution, treatment of animals. The social side will look at a company's values. Do they offer good working conditions? Do they help local communities? And governance, do they use accurate and transparent accounting methods? Do they use political contributions to get favourable treatment? So what we're finding now is there's various industries looking at this, and there's now companies out there providing companies with an ESG scoring. And it's something that we're looking to see if it does tick the boxes for inclusion, either in our portfolios or for the fund managers just as a company to invest in. It's something that the world is paying more attention to, with lots more companies engaging in it. A lot of them now are publishing reports on their approach. But as I said, no one company is going to tick every box in every category. So it's all a matter of personal opinion, but it's something that can be included when you're making investment decisions. Terms responsible or green can mean different things to different people. So it's worth speaking to your advisor. If there is anything you want to just gain a better understanding of, or anything that you feel is important to you, then discuss it before looking to finalise what you're going to do.
I think the good thing as well is that with investing and with the numbers that we have, our clients all over the world dealing with the fund managers. And whenever we're speaking to fund managers, one of the things we ask them is, what do you look for in a company to invest in? And we're getting more and more ESG comments coming through, and this then gets fed to the fund managers who invest the money within these companies and puts pressure on at boardroom level to make changes. So recently we had Boohoo, the British clothing supplier, who came into a lot of criticism for operating, or seemed to be operating, a sort of almost like a sweatshop in Leicester for them making up some of their clothes. But pressure from the investors within the company would then get them to reevaluate the situation and change their methodology. So it's trying to change behaviour that way. Whereas for an individual shareholder, it's very difficult to make their voice heard. But actually going in and using the fund managers and the investments and the power that these investment managers has can do a great deal of good to sort of change the world. So paying your monthly payment into your pension or investing your life savings can help in this context as well, even sort of though it's indirectly.
Yeah, definitely something we're hearing a lot more about, and I think it's going to keep growing. And now, moving on.
Who are these people?
So yes, as we said, Connor, who works for Finiston Franklin McWilliams, is supposed to be here with us today, and unfortunately is not. But
shall we have a look at his photo?
There we go. Say hello to Connor. So as we said, yes, Connor works for FFM, and we've recently sort of formed a bit of a partnership with them and see how they can help our clients. And the idea being that even just having Connor here to talk about the importance of having a will. But the next best thing, Andrew, you can do it instead. Oh,
thank you very much, Rachel. Well, as perhaps some of you will know, do you see what I did there? Here at the company, we used to write wills until I think it was about 2 or 3 years ago, and the reason for doing that really was we were getting a little bit fed up with the wills that we were seeing from some of the solicitors or the will writing companies, which didn't include the wording that we were really wanting from our point of view as being financial advisors. So we took the decision to start writing our own wills for clients. We stopped doing that because of the fact that the will writing system was taking so long to actually implement, and also there was the ongoing CPD learning, etc., which was just taking us away from the core business. But we understand a little bit about wills, and we understand how they're used in terms of financial planning. From my point of view, having a will and being from Yorkshire, if you die with a will, it's cheaper. If you die without a will, so really that's it. That's why you should have a will. The wills state what will happen after you have died, so they don't come into effect until you've actually deceased. And at that stage, your will is your legal document, which says, look, this is what I wanted to happen when I'm no longer here. So within that, you can name your beneficiaries. If the beneficiaries are underage, so children, for example, stepchildren, grandchildren, then you can nominate a beneficiary to look after their interests until they reach the age of majority, so that they can then enjoy whatever you got to leave them in your will. You can leave money to charity and to political parties if you so desire. And in fact, there's inheritance tax advantages in doing that. So even if you perhaps don't particularly like a political party, you may have a favourite charity. And if you donate some of your estate to them, it does see a reduction in potential inheritance tax liability. The will, once it's made, that's really it. You can change it by either making a new will, and as soon as the new will is made, the previous one is null and void, or you can actually write what's called a codicil, which is just an add-on. So you can say, well, okay, here's what I wanted to do, but I'm just making a couple of additions. I bought a new painting. I want to gift this to my niece or my nephew on my death. Rather than having the whole will rewritten, you just simply put a note to that effect next to the will, and then there you are. A will, technically, we don't need to have any legal doodle within it. It can be just simply written on the back of a, you used to say cigarette packet, but that's not ethically correct now. So
doesn't fit with today's webinar.
Back of a muesli box, and as long as it's signed and dated, it's fine. That is your will. It's legal. But we do recommend that you have a professionally drawn up will, and it does provide some sort of some reassurance as well that if anything did go wrong, well, you've always got somebody to sue. But obviously, you're not going to be there to sue them. But anyway,
I think it doesn't have to be complex. Sometimes people have sort of thought about it a bit too much. It can be simple as just to pass to your spouse or your children, or some of the things that Andrew said there. You can make it as specific as you want. It's entirely up to you, but it's certainly not a daunting process. It can be done and dusted fairly quickly. It's just a declaration of your wishes, really.
There are some subtle differences between Scots law and the rest of the UK in that in Scotland, you can't actually write out of your estate your spouse or children, whereas you can do that in England, although the will could be challenged if you did that. But legally in Scotland, your children and your spouse, they have prior claims on your estate, and even if your will says, I'm not giving my husband, my wife, my partner, my children any of my money, because then technically they can actually sort of challenge that, and legally you have to give them some of your estate. So so it's not encouraging children to be nasty to their parents. Keep well in with your parents. I think that's important.
So it's just keep things simple. If you have a will, it's all dealt with a lot quicker. Although, like you said, there can be challenges to it, but it goes for anything, really.
Yeah, the big one as well with the will is that the speed of delivery. So generally, your estate will get dealt with a lot quicker having a will than without having a will. When the will is actually needed, it's important that the trustees, or the people who will be wrapping up your estate, are capable and able of acting fairly quickly. So we've seen some wills where they've got my sister is acting as my executor, trustee, guardian, etc. But she lives in New Zealand. Well, yes, maybe quite good to catch up on Zoom, but not so good if she's wanting to help with actually discharging her obligations here in Scotland. So you want to make sure that the trustees are regularly reviewed and that they're capable and willing to act. It's quite onerous, actually, responsibility being a trustee under a will, and there's lots of legal obligations that you're bound to. Solicitors can help with this, and again, solicitors can do quite a lot of the work or not that much of the work. Whichever way, you'll get a bill from them. Sometimes it's worth paying, and other times you could do a lot of the job yourself in terms of collecting in assets and liabilities, etc., and just giving everything to the solicitor to wrap up right at the end. So it depends on how much work that you're wanting to do. And of course, you won't know, because at the point of death, there's other things going through your mind rather than what's in the will and how am I going to distribute the estate. So, but certainly a will's a good thing to do. One of the points we often get is if you have assets such as property, for example, outside Scotland, then you should probably have a will within the country that the asset's located. So people, for example, if you've got a holiday home, second home, for example, in Spain, then you're probably well advised to have a Spanish will as well as your Scottish will. Again, property in England, Wales or Northern Ireland, then exactly the same again. Have a will there as well for that bit of property and for your estate.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
power of attorney. So what is a power of attorney, Andrew?
Well, a power of attorney is that the will kicks in when you're dead, and the power of attorney kicks in when you're still alive. Now, many people have the opinion that a power of attorney is only for those people in the later stages of life that are starting to dribble a wee bit at the corner of the mouth and starting to lose the bodily functions. Why are you looking at me, Rachel?
I know you've got one, it's okay.
What?
A power of attorney.
Oh, right, rather than the dribbly face. Yes, but power of attorneys, we recommend power of attorneys to everybody, really. Power of attorney is enabling your legal powers to contract to be given to somebody else. And it doesn't mean to say you lose that power of contract. I'll give you an example. Husband and wife, and wife is working for a well-known independent financial advisors. Husband has just decided to work offshore. Now, here, this example, Rachel, would be that the husband and wife perhaps should have power of attorney, because say that the husband is offshore, doing the very, very, very important work that they're doing offshore. If the wife holds power of attorney for him, she could then contract. So she could open investments, close bank accounts, cash in things, move home, change the locks, etc., without needing the husband to be with her and to present himself for signing for various things. So it's giving your power to somebody else. Recently, we've seen one of our clients who was stuck overseas, and we needed to change one of her investments, and she had a power of attorney that we drafted a wee while ago, and her sister was able to sign documents on her behalf. So we were able to change her investments without her having to be in the UK or here in our offices. So not that she could be here in the office anyway, because we'd be close to business, but you get the idea. So power of attorney is giving somebody else the power to contract on your behalf. It's not just for those people that are a bit goo-goo, it's for everybody, really. It's slightly different to the one in England in that this power of attorney kicks in the moment the power of attorney has been granted, and it's the Office of the Public Guardian here in Falkirk, used to be our next door neighbours, who issue and oversee power of attorneys. So again, there are strict rules and regulations about being a power of attorney, because you can imagine you've got so much, you've got the same power as the person who the power of attorney is held for. So you could, for example, cash in current accounts, deposit accounts on their behalf, but it must be for their benefit or joint benefit. If you simply ran off with the money, well, that would be fraud, Rachel, and you quite likely you'd be sued.
Noted.
Right. Okay. So power of attorney, very, very good things to have. They take quite a while to get set up. The Office of the Public Guardian, I think at the moment, my own is taking around, I think it's about 7 months ago since I last put in for it. So I know they're taking a long time to actually publish. So it's one of those things to get drawn straight away. The other thing is, if people, the traditional approach, waiting until they're in their dotage and they're starting to dribble, the person who power of attorney is for, they must have the capacity at the time to be able to contract. So if a doctor says, or a consultant says, actually, sorry, Mrs. McLagan, you can't actually understand what's going on today, you don't know what day of the week is, a power of attorney would not be granted, because that person has to be aware of the power they're investing in somebody else. So they have to be knowledgeable about that.
I think it is important, don't leave it too late. Get it as young as possible. You do run the risk of trying to perhaps assist with your parents' financial affairs. That's a common example we have here, and then they've not been able to get power of attorney. And then to try and deal with their financial affairs is a lot harder, it's a lot slower. There's different things that can be put in place, but it's just, I think a point to note is that you're never too young to get a power of attorney. I think this is something that people do think they'll sort out later in life, but there's no reason to put it off.
No, exactly. Here we go. Now, this is a quite unbelievable offer here from the firm of solicitors. We've been trying for years to try and get a solicitor to work with us and try and see the benefit in giving our clients wills and helping with power of attorneys, etc., on a no charge basis. And for some reason they couldn't see the logic of that. But the idea is to try and say, well, if it's one of the benefits of being a client of ours, you can actually give a will to one of our clients. You never know. In the future, that client may come to you and sort of say, well, I'm moving home, I need some conveyancing work done, or I'm getting divorced, etc. And again, may need some legal, we shouldn't be saying getting divorced, no, happier things. Anyway, sort of get married again. Or something. Anyway, so we're delighted to say that our friends at FFM have agreed that for a will, for a basic will, they will pay absolutely no charge to our clients for arranging the will. And it's all be drafted by them, so that they're a firm of solicitors, so you have all the usual safeguards you would with dealing with a firm of solicitors. And there's no small print clauses, anything like that.
There's no reason not to get it, really. We just think everybody should have it. So something that we do want to put out there to every single one of our clients: take advantage of this while it's available. Although the firm are based in Glasgow, we had hoped to get Connor in. So as soon as more restrictions are lifted, people can come into our office and get them signed up. We can do it over the phone. It's really not going to be an onerous task for you at all. So please take advantage and go for it while this offer is available.
I think quite often we see when clients come in for reviews, and when we're reviewing them remotely at the moment, people say, have you made a will? And they say, no, I'm still thinking about it. I think the best thing is don't think about it. Put down something rough just now, get the will done, and then later, when you've thought about it more, you may say, well, actually, I want to make one or two changes. Then you can make the change. But the premise at the beginning is that you've got the will straight away. Okay, it may not be 100% what you want, but it's a lot better than dying without a will. Yeah,
I'm sure people know what they don't want to happen, even if they're not 100% set on what they do. It doesn't have to be that complex, but if you know what you don't want, then put something down in writing. Put who you do want. If it's just your spouse, if it's just your children, put something down. And then, like you say, think about it a bit more. They are quite easy to change or just make an addition to. So it is important just to have something there in writing.
Probably another one as well is that for those people that have had wills for a number of years, it may well be the case that there could be nothing wrong with that will, but it may just be refreshing to get it updated and to have a new one put in place just to cope with any changes, rules, regulations, or anything like that. And I will, for those clients that have been asking, I will provide my full personal details for beneficial inclusion within the will. If you just let me know for the usual small donation. Thank you very much.
So I think that was just our roundup for our take on things. But like I say, we will sit down with Connor and hopefully record something that we will then send out to everybody to listen to and see if there's anything else that Connor wants to add about it. Now, if you just bear with us one moment, we'll pause for just a second and see what questions we have and if we can answer them here and now. So just a couple of questions in on the will and power of attorney side of things. You touched on it briefly, Andrew, but maybe just specify. What happens if somebody dies and does not have a will?
In terms of their estate, etc. Well,
Assuming so.
yeah, it depends where, but assuming they die here in Scotland, then they have to go through and go to the courts to get their estate validated. So you bring in all the assets and liabilities and a note of who's to get what, etc. And then make sure that those people with prior rights, so the people like the spouse, the children, are included, and then go through to the courts and get the courts to grant the confirmation. And away you go. The difficulty is it takes longer doing it that way, and the person who's died has got to keep their fingers crossed that the estate is distributed in the way that they were wanting. So it's not the end of the world. It certainly isn't the end of the world. It costs a wee bit more if you don't have a will, and you do run the risk that your wishes may not be entirely complied with. One of the things within the will that we used to put in there was disposal of the body, wasn't it? It was would you like to be cremated or buried?
Did have a wish, yes.
Yes, and it was rather unfortunate those people that left it till after the event to read the will and then found, oh gosh, yes, he actually wanted to be buried. Oh dear, if only we'd known. So,
yes, if you know what you want,
yes,
which is out in writing. And one more question: who should have a power of attorney and when? Which we did touch on briefly, but I think the answer is everybody. And
yeah, I think so. Especially if you've got property or you've got assets or children. It just gives up. I mean, one of the examples we got is from last year, where we had a young client who'd simply lost their credit card while on holiday, and their mother, who held the power of attorney, was able to go to the bank and get the credit card reissued. So it's simple things like that, and the power of attorney in general will last you for your whole lifetime, but can be amended simply by completing forms and sending off to the OPG. It's not an expensive process either when you consider the advantages of it. Needing a power of attorney, though, when you're actually incapacitated and you can't contract yourself, then getting guardianship from the Office of the Public Guardian, that does cost quite a bit of money and does involve court appearances, etc. So it's always as well, anybody that you know, just sort of have the chat and say, well, yeah, seeing there's nothing else to do really with this beautiful weather we're having, have you got a power of attorney? Have you got a will? And if not, get them to make contact. Yeah,
so that's us.
This is quite exciting, isn't it?
Yeah, so next month, we're hopefully going to have somebody with us from Puma Investments. So they are a company who deal with the alternative investment market. So something different again to talk about. And yeah, any questions, topics as usual that you either want us to cover or in advance of the next webinar that you want us to cover during it, please let us know.
Yes, thank you very much for your time today, and it's been a pleasure catching up with all of you, and we'll look forward to seeing you soon, and as we have to say now, stay safe.
Yes, take care. Thank you.
Hi and welcome everyone. Welcome to A.R.D Consultancy's sort of extra webinar for you, a little special webinar that we've organised for you just because of the situation that we had with the last webinar where Connor wasn't able to make it into the office, but he's here today and he's going to be going through all of the questions that we had prepared for him. So we had a little miscommunication last time, but it's all ready to go now. And so as you know, it's not Andrew that's talking just now or Rachel. It is Daniel Babellook, and I am the marketing manager here at A.R.D Consultancy. And as mentioned, I'm here with Connor Bowie from FFM Solicitors, and he is going to be talking to us about wills and power of attorney. So I know that Andrew and Rachel went through their spiel during the last webinar, but we still thought that it'd be great to get Connor in here. We built up a pretty good relationship with Connor and FFM. It's through a networking group that I go to. So we've known each other for close to a year now, and we're building on the partnership. And it's getting stronger as we go along, and hopefully, as we mentioned in the last webinar, there's a few things that we've got in line for all of our clients here. But first of all, without any further ado, we have Connor here. So welcome, Connor.
Thank you. Look, we're excited to be here.
That's good. So, just before we start, or as we get along here, please tell us a bit about FFM Solicitors, as well as a little bit about yourself and why you decided to go down the solicitor career path route.
Yeah, of course. So we're Finiston, Frankie and McWilliams Solicitors. It's a bit of a mouthful, but we're based in Glasgow. We've been established for well over 30 years in various guises as a firm. Office is centrally based in St Unit Square in Glasgow, right in the city centre, but we also have an office in Wishaw, and we pride ourselves on being able to work a wee bit remotely across the central belt and west of Scotland. We offer a wide range of services, including residential conveyancing, which is my bread and butter, if you like, powers of attorney, criminal litigation, civil litigation, wills, family law matters, child contact cases, children's panels cases and the like. I myself have been at Finiston, Frankie McWilliams for 4 years now. I've just finished my training contract with them, and I'm now looking forward to starting my new role with them as a solicitor at the firm in a date to be confirmed. I'm originally from Dumfries, and I've now lived in Glasgow for the past 7 years. Certainly life's slowly getting away from me up here. Moving up here, I originally moved up here to study law, and then I ended up working through Finiston, Frankie McWilliams through a friend. Once I had experience working for them, working for this firm, I had my heart set on becoming a solicitor, really. And from there, I've just feel like I've never really looked back. It's a great firm to work with, and we're really enjoying, obviously, like yourself with your partnership, really innovative and ambitious as to what we want to do. So I found myself within Finiston, Frankie McWilliams, with my role centring really on the conveyancing powers of attorney and will aspect. These are the areas of law that I've always really wanted to do. Bring quite a lot of job satisfaction, I think, when you hear people's voices when they get their keys to their new home, and as well, obviously, the appreciative nature of your clients once you've helped them gain peace of mind through setting up their power of attorney and will, for example, just giving them that little bit of peace of mind.
So that's great. So essentially, we are here to focus on wills and power of attorney. However, as you just mentioned there's a lot more to FFM than just putting wills together. So I wonder if you can give us an insight into what a usual week in the FFM office looks like, especially since COVID-19. So I know that things would have changed for you, but we're hoping that there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, absolutely. The first big difference for ourselves is we're all working in separate rooms now. We used to work in a concourse, and it was all quite good, nice and closely knit team, which was good for a good bit of laugh, but also for helping each other out and working close as a team. So we're all in separate offices, as you can imagine, and I think the girls in the office are delighted to get a wee bit of peace from my voice. But at the moment, we have just seen such an uptake. It's been incredible. Right now, the usual work week at the moment is dealing with new business inquiries for residential conveyancing, people looking to move home, submitting offers, getting feedback on the offers any time between really 9 and 3, half 3, and then actually sitting down from half 3, 4 o'clock to do the transactions that are already ongoing, the conveyancing, the actual legal part of things. So obviously we're delighted that it's like that. I think everyone was a little bit worried coming back. You know, when you first got the news of furlough and firms were having to furlough people, you were worried, you know, how long is it going to take us to recover from this? And I couldn't believe seeing when I came back to part flexible furlough, first of all, I was only meant to be doing like 2 days a week. And I couldn't believe the amount of firms that were scrambling to get everyone back into the office off furlough because of how busy they were. So that was immediately a good sign. And I think I lasted about 2 weeks on flexible furlough before my boss said to me, look, you know, you're going to have to come back full time because we're just that busy, which was obviously great. What we found was the last 4 months or so, people have been sitting on their hands a little bit with things. So buying and selling houses, or especially for houses as well, people have been sitting there staying inside of the same house for 4 months and they want out of it now. So they're now moving, and you know, you're getting a backlog of, you're almost getting 3 or 4 months worth of cases in the space of 2 or 3 weeks. But obviously you're getting as well people, powers of attorneys and wills that thought, you know, I really ought to, and I'm sure we'll discuss this throughout the course of this webinar, I really ought to have had this in place already, because you know, it's going to be the most overused cliche that you're going to hear in the next wee while, but anything can happen, and COVID's shown everyone that. So,
unprecedented times, I think.
Unprecedented times, yeah, absolutely.
Let's use that ourselves.
So yeah, I mean, that's right now, it really is all hands on deck in the office, and we're delighted to do that because, you know, you never know how long it's going to last, and you've got to enjoy the busy periods. You know, we're doing, I think all of us in the team are doing 12, 13, 14-hour days at the minute to try and keep our service levels up, and we're happy to do it because you don't want to be naive and think that it's going to last forever. You know, you've got to enjoy the busy times whilst they're there. Obviously, there's still a wee bit of uncertainty as to what may happen in a couple of months' time. Maybe people will start to just lay low a bit, but for now, it's certainly very busy and we're loving every second of it.
Oh, that's good. Very positive then. So you mentioned there COVID-19, so we can't sort of escape it. And it's obviously changed the global landscape forever, I would suggest. But can you give us an insight? So we're back onto the wills now. Give us an insight into why you think everyone should have a will, and touch on the importance as well as the advantages of having a will especially during such a crisis, I guess.
Yeah, of course. As we just sort of touched on there, it's probably going to be the most overused cliche in the world at the moment, but you just never know what's around the corner. And for me, it's been incredible to see just how much of the world has actually come to a standstill on the back of COVID. I don't think anyone could ever see anything like this coming, like this happening, just not only in terms of the effects of the virus and the potential health dangers, but purely actually as well, just how much of the world came to a standstill. I think almost like an invincibility over the last couple of decades, nothing will stop us. And quite a timely reminder that, that anything can happen. But on a more real scale, it applies to your own day-to-day life as much as it does on that corporate economic scale. Anything could happen, and having a will in place for not only yourself but for your loved ones can give you that little bit of peace of mind in very difficult times. At the end of the day, we see quite a lot. There's stats out there on how many people don't have wills in Scotland, but you see quite a lot. And one of the common things you hear is, "Oh, well, I've only got X, Y, and Z in my family, and they're going to get everything anyway, so I don't need a will." But it's always nice for me that people have their dying wishes respected. As morbid as that might sound, but it's always good to have your wishes out there. But even if you're not particularly bothered about that, because you know that all your stuff's going to be split between your 3 sons, for example, it's more about giving them peace of mind, minimising the impact, the distress, the emotion at what is going to be a difficult and emotional time for them. And the one thing you hate to see as a solicitor, we tell our clients this a lot, is it's so difficult to see people scrambling to find solicitors because they're fearing the worst, worrying they've left it too late. So it's not just about your wills in terms of making your own wishes are respected, but really about taking care of your loved ones as well.
That's great. It's very important, obviously. So, got a way to sum that up. A lot of our clients, we've got a large amount of clients that we have, and they already have a will in place. So, usually make sure that they have something in place or looking to get something in place. However, they may not have updated it in quite some time. So, can you talk us through the value of having an up-to-date will, as well as going through the current process to change a will? And I guess to boot, have there been any recent changes in legislation that some of our clients should know about?
Yeah, obviously it's incredibly important to have an up-to-date will, as I've just sort of touched upon there. Wills become outdated, people move houses, they gain assets, they change in family circumstances, whatever. So it's important to keep it all up to date. You don't want any of your, because you can actually have it that part of your estate's okay in terms of your will, and part of it falls to something called intestacy, which again involves going through a long drawn out process. When you mention changes in the law, they for the most part surround the sort of procedural aspects of making a will as opposed to substantive law changes. That's what I mean by that, is how a will's written, the format, the things it can contain, as opposed to substantive law, which tell you what you can and can't do. Mm-hmm. So there's certain major substantive provisions which clients are often unaware of. For example, the inability to disinherit spouses and children under Scottish law. Normally, the issues, if any, though, however, they do centre around procedural aspects of the law. For example, requirements as to how the will should be signed, drafted, making sure the drafting is clear and concise. And this ultimately all reinforces the advantage of having your will drafted by a solicitor. Obviously, there's certain kits out there that you can do your own will for free, but making a mess of it, okay, might be curable, might take some time to cure after you've passed away, but ultimately may end up being not curable and involve you going down the long drawn out intestacy process, which I'm sure we'll come on to as well. For us, the various procedural requirements come actually second nature. We're used to dealing with them, and it ultimately actually means that we can give your clients and anyone's clients the precise wishes within the substantive legal requirements. The biggest issue for clients that have got out-of-date wills is that their personal circumstances change. As I say, they might move house, they might come into a sum of money, might win the lottery, or they might even inherit money themselves. And at this point, the will can become disjointed with their actual wishes. And again, that goes back to, even for yourselves at A.R.D, the need for sound future planning, sound future financial planning. From our point of view, we just like to make sure the process is as simple as possible. We normally recommend we start from scratch with clients, revoking any previous will. It might seem daunting actually to start up again, but with our help we can obtain clear, easy instructions, put it into effect. And then obviously from there, clients are aware as to exactly what the will says, where it's held. They'll have all our details and they'd be welcome to call any time and access their own will, and which will be held in our deed safe.
So now, again, we're harking on this COVID-19, but it's hard not to. Unprecedented times, remember. So the process, in order for our clients to obtain or update a will, I mean, we were looking at a process at the start of this year and it was working quite well for us, but given the change in circumstance now, especially with the inability to meet face-to-face, what's been implemented? How have you changed your process? So if someone was to come in and ask, I would like to get a will sorted, what would be the process from start to finish from your end?
Well, first of all, I think you kind of touched on it there, they wouldn't really be coming in to the office, and that's a big part of it. So we're doing a lot of it by telephone now. It's not ideal because you want to meet people, do you know what I mean? You want to sit down with people, especially when it's something that is important to them. You want to be able to sit with them and see them face to face and have a conversation about it in a comfortable setting. That's out of our hands. At the moment, we're obviously hoping that we'll be able to get back to face-to-face appointments sometimes in the near future, but I don't think you can rest on your laurels and say, oh, you know, we're not going to deal with any wills or powers of attorney until we can do face-to-face appointments. So we're able to take most instructions via email and telephone. We can work that in, or even the post and then telephone, and then supplement that where possible with a video call. Video calls are great things. You know, obviously it does still allow that face-to-face element, ability to see. It allows us to tick off certain ID requirements to check capacity as well. So we have got things in place that, you know, we would like to do. And even if clients are just wanting to do a will in that circumstance, so they've got the bare minimum as to what they want down to cover themselves, so they've got that peace of mind. And then when we come out of all this, because this will all end at some point, I've got no doubt, we will go back to our normality. It might take a wee while to feel normal again, but we will go back to it. They can come in and meet us again face to face. We can sit down and go through it again, even if it's just to say the exact same things. But you know, we have got procedures in place. I obviously completely acknowledge they're not ideal, but it's ultimately the world we find ourselves in right now. And as soon as we can, we will be back out to make sure we're sitting down with people again.
I guess you just need to keep up with the times and make sure that you do change accordingly. And yeah. Quick question here, which we had during the last webinar. Someone asked, what happens if somebody dies and does not have a will? Just quickly, last one on the wills there.
So if you die without a will, after your debts and liabilities are all paid, your estate is distributed in a particular order. Goes with your spouse, they get prior rights, then they'll inherit in the interest in the house, certain rules, values, furniture, cash. Second ranking goes to children, and then again to spouses again under what's called legal rights. And then it's ranked in accordance then thereafter anything that's left with a hierarchy which is set out by legislation, which is the Succession Scotland Act, which actually involves where money can go to parents or siblings. Short, the reason why I'm just telling you the very long-winded answer about that, and that's me summarising it as best as I possibly can, it's more of a 3-day webinar, is it's all very messy, okay? And if you really want that sort of distribution where your spouse takes most of it, your children then get some, and then your parents and siblings get some, why not just phone a solicitor and make it there on writing, and just a much simpler way of making that clear. Probably the most practically hard-hitting point though is that it's just simply a time-consuming and costly exercise to administer an intestate estate. You have to go to a court before you even begin the normal process of obtaining confirmation and being able to sell the house and pay out debts and liabilities and pay the beneficiaries. Before you even get to that stage, you've got to go to the court to have an executor appointed rather than chosen, which you can do with a will, and that involves its own procedures and tests, and it's also followed by an expensive insurance policy to ensure that the estate is wound up in accordance with the rules of intestacy. So all of that before you've even got to the normal stage, and that's just unnecessary uncertainty, distress and expense for your loved ones that you've been left behind. They're obviously going to be mourning. They're not going to want to be thinking about having to go and visit a solicitor even more than they have to wait for the outcome of a court. If court comes and you're waiting for a court date and then another COVID hits and then your court date gets pushed back by months, That's months and potentially years you're waiting. And then obviously, for me, something that's a massive shame is the fact that you're not actually getting the opportunity to express your exact wishes. I know some people might not care about that. For me, I just view that personally as a great shame, especially when you could have done it for very little trouble and even less expense.
Yeah, that's right. Brilliant. So I think we've covered a lot about the will. So we'll move on to powers of attorney. So first and foremost, could you give us an insight into what a power of attorney is, as well as, of course, the importance of having one?
Of course, yeah. A power of attorney essentially allows you to grant a trusted person to the ability to make decisions as if they were their own. There's 3 types of powers of attorney. You've got the financial ones, which deal with bank accounts, house sales, investment portfolios, with likes of an A.R.D. Consultancy. Also, smaller powers such as the ability to shop on behalf of other essentials, collecting pensions, benefits, allowances. There's a welfare power of attorney, which involves things like picking up prescriptions, authorisation of medical nursing or dental treatment, consultation with medical practitioners, accessing important medical records. And then you've got the final one, which is by far the most popular one, and it's the combined power of attorney, and that's exactly what it says on the tin. It's the 2 powers combined. So you can see in the list there that I've just ran through that the power of attorney helps not only with major life-changing decisions, but also actually day-to-day decisions. Being housebound but needing a prescription or food to pay the bills, but you don't want to have to ask someone to pay the money for you and then worry about how you get the money back. That's all small day-to-day stuff which can cause a major inconvenience and a major source of stress for someone that is housebound. And I think what we'll probably talk about as well is everyone views being housebound as something only for maybe the elderly or someone who takes really bad health. So if you're sitting there in good health and you're mid-aged, young-aged, you're probably not thinking about, I'll never be housebound. But look at COVID, the amount of people that had to shield, So, and then on the back of that, even trying to move away from a COVID world at the moment, if it's possible, the most pertinent example for the powers of attorneys is for those that are on the verge of losing capacity, or maybe even they're just worried they're going to lose capacity, and you're worried about, can you sell the house, can they still make the decisions before we have to go to the courts to get what is known as a guardianship order. And essentially, if you think about it, a power of attorney, equate that to your will, guardianship order, equate that to dying without a will, and that process I was just talking about, equally as painful, equally as expensive. If you go down the guardianship route, power of attorney, again, very little expense, very little trouble. You can get it signed, and they can make all those decisions on your behalf without having to go to a court. And then as well, I like to try and use some more positive examples, because powers of attorney, they don't need to be all doom and gloom. They don't all need to centre around care homes and avoiding care home costs to sell houses and things. See if you're merely shielding, maybe you've just decided that you don't want to go out, or you're stuck abroad quarantining because of the COVID, or even if you're just abroad in general, you're on holiday in Australia and something happens, power of attorney can step in there. I have a client seller actually here in Dumbarton. The sister's name's on the titles and she lives in Australia. So without a power of attorney, during all this, I'm worried about, we've got an online ID system now, but can I get the document across to Australia, and can I get it signed because I need the fresh ink version back, posted in time for a date of entry? So I'm talking to the clients and saying, that could be an issue, and they say, no, don't worry about it. We've got a power of attorney that we put in place 6 years ago when we bought it, before my time. And now he can just deal with the entire transaction. I can pick up the phone to the girl in Australia, take her instructions, he can sign the document on her behalf, nice and easy as you like. So powers of attorney, they don't always have to be all doom and gloom. They can actually be very useful circumstances. And we've had numbers in the 4 years I've been working in conveyancing in particular, dealt with a number of cases where people are saying, right, well, I'm going to Thailand for 2 months to go and experience a bit of life. I want to sell my house in the meantime. My dad's got power of attorney. There you go. I'll talk to you through email, and he can sign the documents. So it doesn't always have to be on doom and gloom, but obviously on the more somber note, as I was sort of alluding to there, is those that do lose capacity without having a power of attorney in place. They're maybe looking at going into a care home, and because they've lost capacity, no solicitor can let them sign across the deeds to the house to sell it, meaning that they've got to go through a guardianship order. Depending on the person's health, maybe it's a race against time as well. So, just avoiding that whole process. When you think about it, for the amount of time it takes, and I think normally we do powers of attorney from £250 plus that, to avoid that process, I just think that really it's a no-brainer.
That was very well covered there, Connor. Thanks for the questions. Actually, was an example. Give us a COVID-19 related example, but you did touch upon that, which is quite good. So I guess this is going to be an easy answer for you here. So, in your opinion, which is another question from our last webinar, actually, who should have a power of attorney and when?
Well, for me, everyone, every adult. Do you know what I mean?
Saying that,
it's not because on a work basis. It just, for me, it's a no-brainer. You're going to want to use someone that you trust, and that can be difficult for some people to find that person early on in their life. But if you I don't want to keep saying it, the cliche, you're going to make me say it again.
go on.
You never know what's around the corner, especially after COVID. But it's so true. I mean, as I said earlier, the world came to a standstill. We didn't expect that. The world's been affected by this major virus. We didn't expect that. That's on the global scale, but on a day-to-day scale, people have had to shield. They didn't expect that. People have had to stop working and work from home. They didn't expect that. Anything can happen. And whether it's a major decision such as selling a house, dealing with your investment portfolio, or something as simple as, can you go and pick up a prescription for me? Give yourself that peace of mind. Yeah. All ages. I mean, I'm 24 and I've got one.
Yeah. So that's great. So obviously a no-brainer really when it comes to who should have a power of attorney. So everyone probably look into that at some stage. We're coming to the end of this bonus webinar. And I thought that, I know we mentioned in the previous webinar just about the partnership that we've got with yourself there, Connor, and the generous offer that you've been able to put together for all of our clients. So just wondering, from your perspective, just to let us know what FFM can do for all of our clients regarding obtaining wills.
Yeah, of course. So we're proud to offer free wills to all A.R.D clients, just purely through our firms working partnerships together. I know you're saying it's obviously our offer, but it's certainly something that yourselves, we had a good discussion about, and it's something that was proposed. And as soon as it was proposed, we were on board big time, because it simply is that important. And we've really enjoyed working together with A.R.D. We're hoping that will continue long into the future, and hopefully we can grow our partnership to no ends. Obviously, that partnership at the minute and offering free wills has faced its challenges because of the old coronavirus, as everything has, but we're still proud to offer this service thanks to the likes of Zoom, as I was touching upon earlier, Zoom, telephone calls, post, email. So just again, to really reiterate, we are offering for no fee A.R.D clients the opportunity to write a new will, which is by far the easiest way of proceeding, rather than updating wills, contacting solicitors, finding the old will and then adding what are known as codicils. Okay, it may sound daunting to start again, but it's really not. We do talk you through the process. In the current climate, we're not obviously able to accommodate face-to-face meetings. Of course, we're hoping this will change soon. As I mentioned earlier, we want to be out meeting people as part of our service. And alternatively, at the minute, where possible, and I know I said about telephones, but really, ideally, we're doing it through video calls and Zoom. Through that, we're able to take instructions clearly, and also check a client's capacity and have a wee look at their ID as well. Obviously, we appreciate this is not suitable for all clients, and so we're constantly reviewing the situation with a view to returning to face-to-face appointments at a time and setting which is safe for us all, and that's the most important thing, when it's safe for us all. And again, just to reiterate, there will be a time when it's safe for us all. This will all come to an end, I'm sure of it. But once the will has been returned to us thereafter, we store the will for the clients, and the clients receive a full note of all our details for any future reference. Anything at all, any questions about it, I can't remember what I said, what did I leave to my daughter, and obviously the services will then include updating and replacing the will in years to come. But then obviously as well, the clients will have our details for any of the legal services we provide. I touched on at the start of the podcast. We do a lot of services, myself buying and selling houses, our court department as well. So you'll have a solicitor there that you can phone, and even if we can't help, for example, one area we don't do is personal injury. We do, however, have a good working relationship with a firm that does personal injury. So anything at all, we can be a one-stop shop. We never charge for phone calls or anything like that. Anytime you instruct us to do work, you will be told of the fee, if any, right at the start of the transaction, and it's a fixed fee to stay. So you can phone me for 10 minutes and you won't lose a penny if you've not already been quoted an amount for your transaction as a whole. In some ways, with the wills, we're obviously able to offer a similar service for the powers of attorneys as well.
Well, thanks very much, Connor. I can definitely vouch for the service that you provide. We've had very positive feedback over the course of the year with people that we've referred to you. So it's fantastic, and more than happy to continue the relationship, hopefully, and go forward. And this offer it's brilliant. It really is, and it's very simple. It's a very simple process. All you need to do is just contact ourselves here at A.R.D, and we'll do the fact find. So ask you a few questions, and then that piece of paper will be passed over, or that document will be passed over to Connor, and then from there, Connor will take over. And like I said, he's been brilliant in coming into Falkirk, and at the time, obviously meeting clients, and I know that times have changed now, but it's a great process. It's brilliant, and really, to be honest, it's a free will. So any interest whatsoever, feel free to contact us here in the office. So the next webinar, moving on, I know it was mentioned beforehand, but we do have a provisional date now for our next webinar, which will be on Friday, the 28th of August at 11:30 a.m. It seems to be a suitable time for most of our listeners, which is good. So we'll continue with that. And as long as there is demand and support for the webinars, we'll continue to produce them. The good news is that it won't be myself leading the next webinar. It'll be back to Sir Andrew Dawkins and Ms. Rachel Blackhall. So they'll be back in the driver's seat on the 28th. And we'll also be having another special guest come in, a representative from Puma Investments, who will be talking to us about the alternative investment market, not to be missed. So thank you very much, all. So hopefully you've gained a bit of information here from this bonus webinar that we've got. And once again, a big thank you to Connor for making your way out here and passing us over all that information. Hope you can all digest it. We'll get a transcript out for you. Hopefully the next couple of days. No, we won't. Too much solicitor talk in there for me.
No, but thank you very much for having me. It really has been it's been a great experience. It's been great to talk to you all again. And obviously look forward to hopefully meeting some people, whether it be on telephones, video calls, or hopefully in the future, the not too distant future.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Connor, and thank you all for listening. Thank you.